Good evening, folks. Welcome to this context session. It's Carl here. We're going to deal with Chapter 8, that is Learning Unit 4 tonight. Sorry for being a tad late. I was struggling on a different guest house than where I normally stay over, and I've been struggling to get a proper connection and to slides to load. So tonight's session is all about how we use networks and teams and how they can be of a benefit in our entrepreneurial journey. We need to keep in mind that the networks and teams are extremely important to entrepreneurs. This idea that an entrepreneur is a person who works completely on their own, they're secretive, they don't share their ideas, they don't speak to other people about it. In the real world, that's nonsense. Yes, you've got to be careful about who you share your ideas, people's ideas to be stolen. But in general, entrepreneurs look where they can cooperate, collaborate, and find ways of sharing the information, the ways that they work, the knowledge that they have. And the idea being that entrepreneurship is a bit of a lonely journey, and you need a heck of a lot of knowledge in terms of what you are doing and what you need to be able to do, and the knowledge that you need to be able to apply to your entrepreneurial journey. And not everybody knows everything. So if you know something and you know somebody else that knows something that you don't know, maybe they can assist you, maybe they can help you with some knowledge, and maybe you can help them with the knowledge that you have, sort of the one hand washing the other one. So entrepreneurship and collaboration. Yes, your human capital and that human capital of your team is important. It is important that you build a team of people that are strong and that could carry you, on your journey. But by the same token, social capital is important. And what is social capital? Social capital is simply that we build up through our knowledge of other people, through collaboration with other people, through being able to speak to other people, and having a social network in essence. So that social network, that social capital that you've built up, and remember, when we talk about social capital, it's something that you need to build. The fact that you know somebody doesn't mean that you've got capital with it. Think about your capital, your actual money. It's not something that falls out of the sky. It's something that you build over time. Now, social capital is exactly the same. You build your social, if you want to call it social standing, trustworthiness. There's a whole host of ways of describing this. But once you've built that capital and you've shown other people how they can rely on you and how you rely on them, then that becomes a source for ideas. You can bounce ideas off them. They give you new ideas. Support. You can go to people and say, listen, I'm having a tough time. I'm struggling with this, that, and the other. And they and through that, obviously, your reputation is built. And people say, that person, they've got a good reputation. I've worked with them before. They will recommend you to others. And that recommendation builds your social capital. I spoke earlier about knowledge that you don't have and how you can build the new knowledge through this. And then resources. What you don't have and what you would like to get, you could then get from your colleagues, other ventures. You could share resources, you could pool resources. I've heard of guys, 2-3 entrepreneurs buying a machine together. I know a good friend of mine who actually had quite an expensive machine, and another person needed that machine. And he said, okay, fine. What we can do is I will give you the machine. You can use it, but you will work for me, do the work I need to do on that machine for free for me for X amount. In other words, until the machine is basically paid off. And what that meant is that the friend of mine didn't have to do this work. He had somebody else doing the work, which freed his hands to do other things. And at the same time, this person was able to use the machine to do their own work with it. So it benefited everybody. And when we talk about entrepreneurs, we don't see that side. We don't think about that side. And that's a real true side. And these, through the social capital, then obviously network. And networks can develop at different levels and create different things for different people. Networks create and know what bonds, bridges, and linkages are. It's something that might come up in a question, or it's terminology that you might want to use in answering a question. So bonds are connections between people that are like you, similar people. Family, friends, this could even to a certain extent be cultural in bridges are bonds with people that are not the same than you. It's further than just a sense of identity. It is other people that may be different to you, but people that you can sort of get a sympathetic ear of, or people that think like you, although they're not people that's in your bond circle. And then we've got linkages, and linkages tend to down in social structures, organizations, and communities where people that are at different levels in society or different levels in organizations find that they actually in a position to collaborate. I'm currently collaborating with the person on a venture that I never thought of before, that we would be able to have this kind of linkage, because we're from two totally different backgrounds. We're in two totally places in life in terms of age, development, and all that type of thing. But we've got this linkage going, and we're busy collaborating on a project. So obviously, networks are things that have value, but for the entrepreneur to be able to advance the entrepreneurial journey, to grow, an entrepreneur is required. And these could be investors, potential employees, customers, all of these things. And you need to find a way of communicating with these people, even meeting these people. And a good way of doing this is to have a formal business network. So formal business networks are networks that are built up. They're called networks. So well-known one, if you want to see what one looks like in South Africa, is BNI, Business Network International. It's an international network, but they've got branches across South Africa. I have to say that I was a member of BNI at one stage when I was running my own company. So fair disclosure there. But it's just one of these. There's a number of them, but it's the one that I know, so I'd prefer to speak about that. And what these networks do is they sometimes some monthly, some weekly, and they see what business they can generate for each other. So they see how they can, if they can generate business for each other. So in other words, if you're in one of those networks and you are, let's say, for example, you're a designer, you do interior design. In that network, there might be a builder. Obviously, you and that builder has immediately a connection, because the builder builds would like to do the interior design for the customer. A customer might in future, the customer that you have dealt with in the past might contact you in future and say, listen, I want to extend my property and I want you to do the design of the new or the decoration of the new part of my house. And you might then say, well, if you're going to extend, I know the person to do the extension for you. I've got a great builder. On the other side of the coin, there might be somebody in that same networking group who owns a hardware store or a shop that sells hardware and so on. And both you and the builder may benefit from buying there. They might give you a discount, but they may also be referring clients to you. And similarly, you might be speaking to somebody and they say, look, at the end of the day, it's going to be too expensive to use a professional designer. I'm just going to paint the house and so on myself. And you can then say, okay, fine, that's not a problem. But speak to this guy. They sell paints at a good price. And that's how these networking can help each other in a more formal manner. The textbook bandies around the number of between 20 and 40 people, etc., etc., etc. But within these networking groups, they also establish their own networks, similar to the one I just described. But then you also get informal networks, which are not networks that meet so formally and regular interval of monthly or bi-monthly or weekly or bi-weekly meetings. But this is just people that start to know each other and start to refer business to each other and start working together. And sometimes these end up in forming actually an independent company together, where people have collaborated so well that eventually they just determine, well, we can actually do a company. I've heard of a person who was an estate agent who met somebody who had a cleaning business. And the problem that the estate agent has, and they were commercial estate agents, so they rented out office buildings and these type of things, is having the buildings cleaned before the new tenant moves in. So the old tenant moves out, supposedly they're going to clean the building, they normally don't. And now you're sitting with a dirty building, and you've got somebody, you need to have somebody to come and clean it once. It's not like a contract. Literally at a barbecue at a braai, and that had a cleaning business. I said, listen, and the guy said, yeah, sure, you just tell me when and where, and I'll come clean these places for you. And slowly but surely that developed into this being an integrated service. So now the estate agents offers the service that not only do I rent out the building to you, but I also rent out the cleaning service to you. And they've totally integrated their business. The cleaning service still places, but when they hear that a different customer of theirs is going buildings, obviously they tell the estate agent, and the estate agent can approach the owners to say, can't I be the estate agent for the building? And stats show that a large number of startups benefited from this type of informal networking. You also see, if you look at these creator hubs and so on, where small startups do, there's also, in many cases, startups collaborate with build these informal networks and to try to assist each other. So networks has a vast amount of benefits and advantages that they give you, but there's three key advantages. Private information. So in a network, and one needs to talk about the ethics of this. In a network, you meet people that know things about companies and know things about people. And they may be willing to share this information with you. I know in our network, lots of times somebody would say, I would like to get into this company. Does anybody know somebody there? And inevitably, our network varied between about 20. Inevitably, somebody would know somebody in that company that's a decision maker. or they would know somebody that worked with that, and they would be able to get some kind of introduction. I know in one case, one of the guys in the network said, yes, I actually know the MD of the company, and he knew that the MD played golf, and he knew that the guy in our network that wanted to meet the MD also played golf, so he arranged a golf outing for them where they played together in a foursome on a window. That led to business. They found doing what do I do and how, and obviously then people get to know each other from a different perspective in those settings, and then they say, well, actually, I like this guy, and I don't mind giving this guy a chance to do a little bit of business, and a little bit of business becomes a lot of business, and a lot of business becomes a major undertaking. Sorry, Robbie, I see you saying my voice my voice goes fast forward. On my side, just give me a second, I just want to check something quickly. My internet looks good. I'm going to try something. If I lose you, I'll be back in seconds. I am... Okay, I have switched networks. Robbie, can you just give me an indication that you can still hear me? Okay, I'm hoping that I'm still audible. And yeah, so and I can see the recording is still running, so I'm going to continue. I can't see really that there's a fault on this side. I'm just going to go back one slide and forward one slide. That looks fine on my side. So yes, it looks like it's fine on my side. I will check the recording afterwards, and if there's a problem with the recording, then I'll make sure to re-record it just for clarity. But okay, the second thing that the main advantage. Okay, thanks, Rob. The second big thing is access to diverse skill set through the value of networks. And through the network, you have access to skill sets, people with other experiences, people with other skills. Designing something, but you've got this idea for a product, but you've never actually done the manufacturing. A network could, if you query your network and you could find somebody in that network that actually understands manufacturing, you can discuss with them, what does the manufacturing process tell us, and how will what I am doing be impacted with what manufacturing can do? Because it's easy to design a product, but in many cases, when that product needs to go to manufacturing is going to say, no, there's no ways we can do that product. It's not possible, or it's going to be extremely expensive to manufacture it in that way with these resources, or that way with these materials that you require. And then lastly, and it links to the other two, is access to power. Networks give you access to power, and I'm not talking Eskom, yeah? I'm talking about people that have knowledge, that are experts in their field, people that have walked this road before. And they can give you advice, and you would be surprised. We'll talk about opting in, people that opt into your network later. Be surprised how much help there is out there. For people that they're just actually decent people, they're nice people, and they want to help other people succeed. And through networks, you'll even get access to these guys. So, and a slightly sidetrack, studies have shown us that students that are busy studying do not use network opportunities. Now, I understand that you guys are distant students and understand that many of you are not young adults, in other words, people that have recently come out of school, and your situation might be different and you might be using your networks. But in general, students are known not to use their networks. And let's look at a couple of reasons why not. So the first thing that students get wrong is they don't do what we call impression management. Um, so impression management is basically, and people say, yeah, you shouldn't judge a book on its cover and all of these things. Reality is that's exactly what happens. So it's important that even as a student, you should manage the impressions that others form of you, um, especially right at the beginning. There is a point in bias from impressions. People tend to form impressions very quickly of you. Um, I know for myself when I was a student, opportunities that I lost just because I looked like a student. I dressed in old denims, my hair was long, and all of these type of things. And there were some opportunities that today I regret because had I exploited them at that stage, um, I might have had much more to have done early in my life than I did. And one regrets these later on. And because students don't manage impressions or don't do impression management, if you prefer, um, students sometimes lose these opportunities, and students don't think um, that the impression that they create is important. They don't understand how important it is, and it sometimes takes students quite a while um, of being in the working world before they realize how important these impressions are that they create when they meet people. Students also believe many cases that they don't have much to offer, and they've got a lack of confidence. Um, and this is especially true for students that are later in their studies. I mean, a third year student knows a heck of a lot. And I always say to my students, guys, you're a third year student. You need to not draw on the work that I'm dealing with you, but you need to draw on the work from your previous years. You've got you in the final year of entrepreneurship, you've know a lot more than you knew initially. Um, and you've got a vast amount of knowledge that's just sitting in your brain, and you need to draw on uh, um, that knowledge to be able to exploit that knowledge to be able to do things and to realize that when you meet people you can actually make a contribution to conversations. You can be the person who is the source of knowledge for somebody in another enterprise. And then lastly, and I think this is especially a problem, two reasons with online students. One, because they are online, they don't see each other, and because of that reason, they don't realize who they're dealing with in the class. Um, I have in the online space that other students just see them as their colleagues, um, or other students for that matter. But because of me being the lecturer and because of my role, I find that, well, I'm actually dealing with somebody that's the head of an institution. I'm dealing with somebody who has got an extremely high qualifications but has decided to switch directions and is now doing a completely different qualification. And then there are students in that class that could actually really have benefited from creating a linkage with that student, because of their own business that they're in. But because students don't speak to each other, they lose that linkage. So a word to you guys as online students, um, sort of look left and look right and look at who the other guys in your class are, find out who they are, find out what they do. And if you're somebody that simply said, look, I prefer to study online, I don't want to go to classes, um, so you've just fresh out of school, and you don't think you've got much to offer, it's still a great idea to network with your peers, because in a year or two, you're going to be starting your own business, you're going to be looking for a job, and your peers are quite likely in the online space people that already run their own companies. Your new company that you start might be able to do business or seek employment rather than start your own venture. Um, they may actually be people with whom you could do business, or people that can contribute to your business, or be people that can give you advice in your business. So please, and I don't, I say this jokingly, but I don't mean it jokingly. Look left and look right. Look at who else is in your classroom, um, and link up with those people and find out who they really are, so that you don't miss an opportunity to network while you're busy studying. This is what I was talking about earlier: self-selected stakeholders. So you have your little business, you have your little network, and we tend to think we need to go find people, but when you move around and you listen, you might find people that are not really stakeholders, but that form an interest in your business, that are keen on one way or another being involved in your business. We're not talking about people that are angel investors. We're not talking about people that want to invest money. We're not talking about people who um, want to buy a share in your business. We're talking about people, a friend of the family to a lecturer. I've self-selected into a number of businesses. Um, it could just be a random person who says, "Geez, this is a good idea, and I really, really think this person needs um, all the help they can get, and I'm so happy to share my knowledge." So it's not people that you need to convince to come into your business. It's people that want to come into the business. When you bump into these people, you do not want to alienate them. As a matter of fact, you want to pull them in and you want to make them part of your business. There's 3 rules. Be enrolled yourself. In other words, be committed to your business. Don't have an idea and sort of start a business, and it's something here on the side that I'm going to give attention to when I've got time to give attention. And if I've got time, I'll give it attention. If not, it is what it is. Because then people are immediately going to say, well, I'm not going to give my time for free because I feel this is a good business. If the person who's got the idea is not committed, I'd rather look for somebody else. Be truthful. Don't, when the person starts talking to you about the business, don't over exaggerate what the business could become. The old adage of under promise and over deliver is very true here. You want to rather play down what you think the business is going to be and deliver up and surprise the person. And then because this is a self-selecting person, let them select. In other words, don't push too hard. Don't be too forceful. Remember, this person is doing it because they want to do it. They owe you nothing. If you start being too forceful and push too hard, you might lose it. And that'll be a pity that you lose it. Okay. So there's many places where there is support for entrepreneurs. Civic organizations, NGO seminars, your business chambers have regularly got seminars, and it's a great networking opportunity as well. Not only is the seminar going to teach you stuff, but the networking opportunities. There's things called incubators and accelerators. We'll talk about them now. And they are, if you start looking around, there's a lot of organizations that are actually dedicated to helping entrepreneurs. And you know what? If you're in an area where there is nothing and there's really nothing, why don't you start an entrepreneurs group? Go to your local library. Say to your local library, I'd like to use one of your venues. I'd like to have a little hall. We just a group of entrepreneurs. We want to start an entrepreneur. Find a group of people, get them together, and start collaborating with them and see how you can help each other. You'll be surprised how such a small starting thing could actually boom and become something that really makes a difference. Even if you're in a rural place, you go to your local municipality, say, why don't we connect a couple of the entrepreneurs? Ask entrepreneurs to come in. I'll ask my lecturer to come down and do a lecture. I'll get a good one of the well-known business people in the town to give us a talk on how they started and how they built, or 5 lessons that they learned. So all of these things are possibilities that you can do to try to develop your ability to network. So incubators and accelerators are more formal things where you can get help from. If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to lie to you, but there's a whole section on incubators and accelerators, and I think that's in the 2nd semester. But I'm going to quickly tell you what incubators and accelerators are. Incubators, entrepreneurs come together that have an idea, that want to start a business, and they simply have an idea and they want to develop that idea to the point of where it becomes a business. So you go to an incubator, and typically some incubators charge money, some ask for a part of the company, some are charity funded, and so on. It all depends. But you basically go to the incubators and they help you set up the business, they help you register the business, they help you do the business plan, and all of these type of things. Once the business is up and running, they say, okay, goodbye, and off you go. So then the incubator has played their role. It's an incubator like a baby. Once the baby's big enough, the baby can leave the incubator and you're on your own. However, there is then the option of an accelerator. What accelerators do is they take businesses that have recently started, move to the next level. So they scale these businesses. So you go from an incubator to an accelerator. The beauty of incubators and accelerators are that they are almost like a hub for new businesses. And there's always a group of businesses there. And that is another opportunity for you to network. It's a place where you can build your network from, and you can meet other people that are in a similar situation like you, and you can see how you guys can collaborate. But we will deal with incubators and accelerators in a later as I say, I can't offhand remember if it's later this semester or next semester, but we'll deal with them in quite a lot of detail. So, how do we network? What do we do? Well, one of the places to do this is to understand that networking events are important things, and that we need to use networking events. So using these networking events is, firstly, you need to understand that you shouldn't go to these events to say, what can I get out of these events? You should be going there to say, what can I contribute? How can I help other entrepreneurs that are at these events? What is it that I know? And even if it's the smallest bit of contribution that you can make, you still have a contribution to make. And when you're there, then look for people where you've got similar personal interests, because you can forge relationships on that. If you're not happy with your ability to network, learn the skill. Networking is a skill that can be learned. And then if you meet people, the basic part of networking, listen to people, actively listen, participate when they say something. Say, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about this. Show interest in their business, because once you show interest, people are more keen to share what they know, and are happier to share information and share details of who they know and who they know that could possibly help you. Networking is a quid pro quo. Simply what that means, it's a give and take. If you're going to be in a network situation with somebody or a group of people and you keep taking and taking and taking and taking, people are going to stop giving. It's as simple as that. Because it's a question of as much as the more you give, the more people are going to give to you. But people are in networks and they place themselves in networks because they believe they can get some kind of an advantage out of it. And it's not a question of I must get everything out of it and I must hold back. It's a question of I'm prepared to give, I'm happy to give, but you must also give. If you take, you must be able to give. Um, and to do this, you need to approach people when you see them at events, chat to them, and also then, of course, remember their names. Remembering names is a key part of networking. Um, another reason to network is to find a mentor, especially if you're new in business and you're still finding your feet, to have a more senior person or and it's not necessarily age related, but somebody that's been around the block a couple of times, um, and they know the ropes, and they can give you mentorship, and they can help you as you progress with your venture and as you grow your venture. Um, and sometimes people don't just have one mentor. You can have various mentors. Um, Sometimes it's a case of this person understands business development, but that person understands finances. Um, Sometimes it's a question of I'm struggling with marketing, so there's a person that can help me with that. But that person can't always help me if I've got a challenge with manufacturing. And if I need to speak to somebody about manufacturing, I go speak to somebody else about it. Um, then networking from remote locations is quite possible. Um, there's online networking through social media, for example. We all know the Twitter, the LinkedIn, Facebooks, Instagram, and even YouTube. YouTube is a great place to start explaining to people what you're doing, because if you do a couple of YouTube videos and people start seeing these videos and they say, well, I'm also interested in this. I want to know how you do that. I'm in the same city as you. Maybe we can hook up. Maybe we can sit and have a chat because I'm working on a similar type of project. Um, and each one of these tools have their own job. And please go have a look at what the textbook says about them and about what to use these various social medias for. But virtual networking is a definite thing, and it's something that you can really get involved in. You're already an online student, so you're already used to um, working with these tools. So why not take it to the next level? Um, Twitter is very easy to find stakeholders. Um, if you put your voice out on Twitter, Twitter obviously is X these days. I just find it slightly difficult to call it X. Um, the LinkedIn is also a great place to find collaborators, and there the trick is posting questions and comments, um, and listening and reading what other people say. LinkedIn is a great place to learn from as well, because people put quite long articles on LinkedIn that tells you what experiences they have had, and those experiences are in many cases the experiences you can learn from, because if you look at what they've done in certain situations, then you say, okay, so how would I have done this, and how would I have done it different? It becomes quite an interesting exercise. um, you can almost do a case study for yourself from there. um, so when we starting a venture, we want a foundation, what's called a foundation team, which is a very strong team, um, typically a group of people with complementary skills. And those are the people that will start the venture. And there's this chapter deals quite a bit with the founding team. Um, the founding team is the founders and co-founders, in other words, the people that originated the business, and then those people that they brought in right at the beginning. Um, and the whole idea is this team is the one that needs to get the company up and running. Um, they typically have the entrepreneur, the person who thought of the idea or started the business, and that entrepreneur has then brought them in as part of the founding team. Um, and in this situation, you don't want to advertise positions. You want to handpick people, and the only way to effectively do that is through um, having a network of people and networking, saying, and then approaching people in the network and say, listen, I'm starting this organization. I'm looking for somebody to come help us. Um, would you be prepared to, and it might just be on a part-time basis, it might be on a consulting basis, and eventually it might become a bigger thing. But that is one of the key ways of putting your founding team together, um, is through networking, and it allows you to get a team together that are diverse. You're not always going to get that from advertising a position. Um, and it's important that your founding team is diverse, because you're getting teams from different cognitive abilities, a team that'll buy in and give commitment, um, put into the idea. And what happens is, if you put this diverse team together, things like groupthink, where everybody thinks the same way because they've been recruited the same way, they've been sold into the company on the same way. Um, they Everybody's going to think the same, and that's not what you want when a company starts. You want people that think diverse. You want people that are going to do different things. Um, I think the next slide talks about the devil's advocate. You are going to give an ulterior point of view that are not going to conform to what the group says. Um, and that's important, because if you have a bit of healthy conflict, it's always going to be a thing where conflict makes people think of other things, and conflict brings up new ideas. Um, and as long as you stick to the organization's goal, then you will find that the conflict is a healthy thing, because it addresses those goals of the company. Okay, that gives us, that's about the end of it. I hope that gives you a sense of networking, and how teams work within this network, and how you should be using networking as a way of building your team. As always, this is an overview of the chapter. I try to do a chapter when we get the opportunity to meet, so at least chunk work. But you need to go into the chapter. You need to go and read up and make sure you understand the chapter, and all the other content that I haven't touched. Just as a matter of closure, any questions, anything you want to ask me, anything I can deal with before we close? Okay, great stuff. I'm going to say thank you to you. Have a great evening. For those of you that are celebrating Eid, probably tomorrow, all the best. And I will chat to you very soon. Keep well. Cheers.